for 30 years, I think I've wanted to, to meet these guys, and it's a great, thank you at least for that, Guillaume. Jerry frightened the hell out of me. I mean, if we don't take it seriously, we're gone. And Doug has projects of such a huge sort of, in fact, dimension. I mean, here we are all talking about it, and he's out there doing it. So it was fantastic. Well, anyway, perhaps the number one accident of my life was when I met my wife. And sadly, in fact, Anita had died nearly 3 years ago, but our life continues and her work has to continue. But we met in 1968. I was quite innocently sitting in a small restaurant, drinking a beer with a friend, and all of a sudden, the door flew open. And any of you here who know Anita would know how she would enter and exit a room. It was unbelievable. And I turned to a friend who was right beside me, and I said, "My life is over." Because I looked, and somehow I knew I would end up the rest of our lives together. And sure enough, after 1 week, she had moved in with me, and I couldn't ever get rid of her. Mind you, it wasn't, in fact, that I wanted to. But we moved in together, and we formed a partnership that lasted almost for 40 years. And we had several small businesses, picture framing, small hotel, restaurants, and then we moved into our retail business. No? Oh, yes, that's it. No? Okay. And, that is us in 1970. We always were contrarians, and we went to Reno, Nevada, where everybody else gets to be divorced, and we got married because her mother was a small Italian paisano who had told us we would end up in hell if we didn't get married. And let me see if I can operate this. No, this is not going to work, is it? Yes. Right, we set sail. In fact, I had a great desire to do a journey from, Argentina, riding a horse up through Argentina, across Paraguay, and up into Bolivia. And Anita, had this idea to do a retail outlet, selling creams and oils and shampoos of great quality in cheap packaging. And so we opened up our first shop, and grew from there into more than 2,500 shops worldwide in over 60 markets and across God knows how many time zones. And at our peak, I guess we employed about 15,000 people. It's quite a tale, because Anita was a teacher of English and history, and I was trained in agriculture. And I went to the Royal Agricultural College. I was the only student in the history of the place who who did not pass an exam called, in fact, farm buildings. Now, those of you who know farm buildings will know they are not very complicated structures. But I managed to go into the exam, and I passed out. I've been up all night playing and drinking, so we were a most unlikely business partnership. Neither of us, in fact, had any experience in business. The only advice I ever had was from one uncle who simply had said, "You have to create more revenue than you spend." It's always seemed quite sensible to me, really. And then, of course, the Anita principle was that rules only exist to be broken or disregarded. I mean, actually, it was great that we had no training in business, because all the normal conventions of business passed us, in fact, by. When I came back from my jaunt in South America, because I actually rode up through Entre Rios and across Paraguay into Bolivia, and I had an accident, in fact, on my horse, and anyway, I truly wanted to come home because I missed Anita and the kids. She had now got 2 shops and had sold half the business. But it was beginning to be incredibly interesting. But in fact, none of the big banks would help us with cash, and so we grew by recruiting our franchisees. And I mean, we had a great interview process, because all we were trying to hunt for was passion. And it was passion about social and environmental issues, passion about life, and passion about anything. And we had a 2-day interview process. On our first, we would go and see them in their own homes. Because you can't actually, it's actually quite hard to hide your whole character if you open up your home to somebody. And of course, Anita was incredibly, in fact, sort of nosy. And would open up drawers and doors and without asking. And of course, she knew everything within about half an hour. We weren't trying to hunt for checkbooks or bank accounts. We were just hunting for passion. I mean, I don't often quote Anthony Robbins, but he has a great quote, I think, which is, "Passion is the genesis of genius." I love that one. Our next interview was back at the head office, and they would have to do the Marcel Proust questionnaire, which had questions in it such as, what is your idea of perfect happiness? And who is your number one poet? And how would you like to die? Well, we ended up with a bizarre group of passionate and sincere franchisees whose expectations were often unrealistic. And it created a number of control issues, but then control was my part of the deal, whilst Anita was in charge of creation and anarchy. So we our business had advanced, and selling shampoo is not the most important thing on earth. We quickly cottoned on to that, and so we we chose to try and be extremely profitable and then use those profits either to do good or to cause trouble for other people who were not doing good. And so we organized when Ceausescu was executed in Romania, we were called upon by Médecins Sans Frontières to be their partner within Romania, and we had taken over 3 orphanages, and we helped to train the nurses and care workers, and Children on the Edge is now a separate independent charity, and they continue on to work in Romania today. Okay, and so our, in fact, people who worked, with us within the business were able to do 1 day per month of what we called community service. And many of them would go over to the orphanages during the hot summers and organize playgroups for the children. We had specialized in setting up projects wherever they were called for. And so in terms of sort of, in fact, for Kosovo, we organized a mobile, in fact, hygiene unit, which had a number of showers in it, so people who were refugees at least could keep themselves, in fact, clean. And we helped the people of Shabra, who were mostly Muslim, to build an education center. And we raised about 200 grand, grand by setting up a retail, in fact, unit in the capital of Kosovo in order to sell our slightly wounded or damaged product from the UK, which would have otherwise ended up within landfill. Yes, we organized in Glasgow, which was one of the most sort of deprived areas of Western Europe, a thing called Soapworks, which was a soap factory set up in Easterhouse, and people advised us it was impossible, it would not work, and everything would be destroyed. In any event, it was successful and has been trading for more than 20 years now and is entirely independent. So we use business to organize other outside projects. This one was Big Issue. Big Issue has been a great success. It's been trading now for 19 years. And we've opened it in Australia, South Africa, Japan. And within the UK, we actually do about 200,000 papers per week. And it is sold by the homeless in order to help them get off the streets. And they get in fact, first 100 newspapers free, and then they have to purchase them thereafter. it was in about 1993 that we were approached by a Nigerian tribe called called the Ogoni, who had been protesting against Shell. Now Shell had been responsible for polluting a great heap of the Nigerian, in fact, the Delta. And it was in this sort of background the government of Nigeria arrested Ken Saro-Wiwa, who we can see up here. And even against a sort of huge international protest, which was led by ourselves and Amnesty, they hanged Ken on the 10th of November 1995. And Shell made no intervention to prevent this crime from happening. And it was just dreadful. However, we used our shop windows to protest, and they had released about 19, in fact, Ogoni men who were being threatened with execution. Their release in partners with Amnesty was one of the proudest things I think we've achieved. We set up our own sort of foundation in 1997, and we're spending about £1 million per year into a number of projects. And then, in fact, somewhat later on, we had sold our business to L'Oreal and put about £30 million into our foundation, which has really become our life's work. And we continue on to campaign. Oh, I've lost my way here. Yes. And one of the main campaigns we have been involved in has been the Angola 3. I've no idea if you know anything about the Angola 3 in the USA, but they are 3 men who've been held in solitary confinement for 38 whole years within Louisiana in the USA. In fact, one of them has been released about 8 or 9 years ago after 29 years in solitary. And let me see if I can. No. That's our web page on the foundation. Anyway, here is Anita with Albert, and that is Herman, and and the one here is Robert King, who is out. And we had a great. We have had BBC and UK TV have produced a new documentary on these guys, because it is truly horrendous what has happened to them. And we've been touring the documentary in England and up in Glasgow, where we got our best reception. And we hope all the pressure that we've been trying to bring for 10 years will work, and we will get these guys out. they were all found guilty of the murder of a prison guard and sentenced to life without parole. But there is no evidence that actually has linked these three men to the crime. Just the word of a prison snitch who was paid to give evidence and then was later released. And the only eyewitness actually was blind, and which makes it a bit tricky, really. So, but the Attorney General of Louisiana, who's a classic redneck, is determined to keep them in. And I mean, he incidentally is a wild, in fact, Elvis impersonator. I'm not quite sure what that says about U.S. justice. We are showing the movie on Wednesday evening, I think, aren't we? It's around 83 minutes, in fact, but it is a great movie. Yeah, I mean, I have to say also a word in support of transition towns. I think hearing a number of the questions at the press conference today, and hearing Jerry, talk, and Doug, I think transition towns is a great way to go in terms of Mallorca. It involves everybody in the, in fact, the choices and in the solutions. I mean, all of us need to be involved. We have to get up right now and make a contribution into our future. So I think that's it. Thank you very much.